Welcome to Stories from the Center of the Universe, the podcast about the human experience.
Tom Saunders, welcome to the Center of the Universe.
Paul, it's great to be here. You've been thinking what a stir this has caused in my family.
Well, tell me more about that stir, Tom.
My grandchildren are very excited that I'm doing a podcast. They'd heard the term podcast. I'm not sure they've ever listened to one, but anyway, they're excited about it. My wife, not so much.
Because she's already heard your stories enough.
Right. She just wants to know who the hell would want to talk to me.
Well, the answer is Paul Gilman. Well, I guess we should explain. You and I know each other, and I don't use the name of the company. I say the bakery to represent the one that started in 94, I guess late 94, early 95. So we're going to talk a fair amount about the bakery, but we're going to talk about a lot of other things as well. So when I started in the company in 93, it was Signet Bank before it became the bakery. I think I knew of you almost right away. And I told you this when we talked a couple weeks ago. You're the one guy who said, "Hey, don't talk about religion, politics, or sex in a corporate environment. Just don't do it." And I'm like, I don't think I'd planned on doing any of that, but I'm glad somebody who had experienced corporate life for a minute at that point had just come out and plainly said it, right? You're the only person to ever say that to me in corporate America. I mean, it's common sense for people our age.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you said it. You also said, I don't know exactly how you phrased it, but you basically said, if you write a really long email, nobody's going to read it.
Well, that was probably based on feedback I was getting at the bakery that I was one of the worst offenders of writing a chapter when only a paragraph was needed. I got that feedback for about 30 years.
You just enjoyed writing.
Well, I do enjoy writing. I wish I had written down some of the crazy times at the bakery, but
Yeah, we probably can't talk about all of those.
right, you're right about that.
But there were some crazy things that I did not anticipate I would ever be directly involved in investigating or remediating or whatever.
But you know, the bakery was really ahead of its time. The bakery in the mid to late 90s prepared all of us that were at the bakery for what was to come.
You're absolutely right.
Because we dealt with it all in the 90s, not in the aughts or that sort of thing.
We were wild from
Right.
94 to I don't know. When did things start to turn a little bit? Maybe 01, 02?
Yeah,
But
things were calming down a little bit by then.
But the bakery was there didn't seem to be a lot of rules. Just go try it, and if it works, then great, we'll keep doing it. If it doesn't work, we won't.
It was flying by the seat of your pants in many ways. Bringing in 50 new hires in a week. If you could, what was the old joke about how you got hired at the bakery? If you could dress and speak and get to work, you could work there for. It was that crazy for a while.
Yeah, depending on what the economy was doing, but there were times where we just had to ramp up people. Yeah, it was wild. But you didn't start at the bakery. You were about midway through your career when the bakery was created out of Signet. Was your first job out of college at Signet?
Yes, it was. Not counting the construction job. I graduated from the University of Richmond in May of 1974. And being a political science major, there was no great demand for my skills. And since I didn't want to be a lawyer or go to law school or anything like that, I spent the summer, what do they call it these days? Kids finding themselves.
Yeah, sure.
I spent the summer finding myself on a construction job building what then was called St. Luke's Hospital over on Perham Road near the intersection with Broad. A company from Louisville, Kentucky was the contractor, and I think it may have been a union job. I didn't have to join the union, but I was getting paid $3.25 an hour. I thought I was rich. I had more money than I'd ever had in my life. And anyway, I worked there in the summer, and I was getting married, or I was getting. I figured I was going to get engaged after Labor Day, and I did. And my fiance, now my wife of almost 50 years, uh, uh, she and I both knew I needed to try and get a real job, that being a construction laborer was not a long term opportunity for me. And uh, I got turned down at a number of fairly menial jobs that I applied for. 74 was a tough job market. And anyway, um, uh, I applied at what then was Bank of Virginia to be a collector. I had no idea what it was. And I found out, I got the job. I found out pretty quickly, and I wasn't ready for it, I can tell you that. I was so gullible. I had no idea that people existed who did not pay their bills.
You you
They,
you were introduced to all the exceptions.
the credit card business was so new in 1974 that uh, that Bank of Virginia could only market credit cards in the state of Virginia, and most of the marketing was done by the people in the branches
Mm.
opening cards. But it was a real education for me, and it began the process of turning me into a man. Because if I always said, if anybody could do that work all day long on the telephone, talking with people who've got problems, talking to people that don't want to talk with you, this, that, and the other, this, the stress that comes from that kind of work, and so forth, that you could probably handle most other jobs. So that got me started, and it all worked out for the best. But it was basically the credit card equivalent of starting in the mailroom and working your way up.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to come back to your career, but I want to go all the way back to the beginning. I can never remember if you're from South Boston or South Hill.
South Hill, South Boston's about 50 miles further west, and you know, pretty significantly bigger. South Hill's a little town of about 4,000 people back then, and probably about the same population now. Uh, I look back on it with great memories. I got everything I needed to grow into a decent human being, I hope, there. And it was a good way of life that I really, have fond memories of.
South Hill was known for what?
Tobacco.
Okay.
It was right in the heart of the Southside Virginia tobacco market. Everything revolved around tobacco. My father was literally a Norman Rockwell type country doctor, and growing up in that household where, uh, we were talking a few minutes ago about having to work 60 hours a week in a corporation. Uh, my father worked, well, a country doctor was always on call. If his office wasn't open, patients picked up the telephone and called the house.
There weren't emergency rooms back then, right?
Well, there was a hospital in South Hill.
Really?
And there was a hospital in South Hill, but there were about 6 or 7 doctors in the area, and they had to man the emergency room there, and they had 24-hour shifts,
Mm.
and so doctors there had their offices, their patients in the hospital, their emergency room things, and it was a brutal lifestyle that.
Mm.
That's what doctors are trying to avoid today.
Right.
Is doctors today want to have a normal life.
They've chosen a tough profession.
And back then, being a doctor in a rural area, uh, my father used to carry me on house calls when my mother said, "Get him out of the house before he drives me crazy." He'd come by the house, pick me up, put me in the back seat, and take me on house calls. But I couldn't get out of the car when we got to the patient's house. He wouldn't let me. Some of them had kids. I wanted to get out and play.
Sure.
He wouldn't let me get out of the car.
So, were you inside a lot as a kid, or did you?
Oh no,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. The giant difference in kids today. I look at my grandchildren, and there's so many organized things. Kid in South Hill, we had one organized sport that kids could play. We had a little league, as it was, and it wasn't much, but it was one organized sport. And I think we had a Cub Scout troop until it folded.
Mm.
And I don't recall the Boy Scouts. There may have been a Boy Scout troop for a while as well, but other than that, there wasn't much. So being outside, the one thing we did have was, when after breakfast or after lunch, you went outside to play. You walked or rode your bicycle over to the neighbor's house, hooked up with them, went to another house, hooked up. Before you know it, there was a baseball game breaking out, or a basketball game breaking out, or a football game breaking out. And you got bored with that. You went and built a fort in the woods. And when you got old enough, you took your shotgun into the woods and tried to hit squirrels or doves or whatever you could find. Or I remember one time we followed a creek out of town,
Mm.
and we ended up about
Were you walking or riding bikes?
walking
Mm.
along the creek that went out of town to the Mehurin River, and we ended up on a road. Yeah, we didn't know exactly where we were, and we had to start knocking on doors
Hold on,
to
Tom. We have to help your grandchildren out here a little bit. There was no GPS back then.
right, no
Uh,
GPS.
Kids weren't carrying around maps in their pockets, so you were literally just making educated guesses as you went along.
Well, we were following the creek. There
Sure,
was
yeah, that's a fair
a
point.
great creek that, but we weren't worried about trespassing on anybody's land or anything. We was just following the creek. But we got in some trouble for that. But parents back in those days didn't worry so much about where their children were. Most of the time, if we were playing basketball, football, or whatever in the neighborhood, the father would come out of the house at supper time and yell at the top of their lungs, or some parents had whistles that they would blow, and that meant for the kid to come home for supper.
You didn't have any bells in the era?
I don't remember any bells, but every kid had a sign, and you knew exactly which kid was going to get called first by their parents' habits. Uh,
Yeah, it's funny. I imagine you had a similar experience. There was one kid who he had like 3 minutes to be in his house when he heard his dad yell for him. There were other kids that had
yeah,
bells or
yeah.
they had a sign, and then there were a couple of kids that just they knew to be home before it got dark, kind of thing.
But we had a lot of sports, and typically it was a mixture of kids. You had younger kids, there were some older kids mixed in, and uh, I'm sure, I remember I always wanted to try to be a guy that the older kids could trust when they threw a pass that I was going to catch it. Because I wasn't the most athletic kid. I was smaller than most of the other kids. And I really wanted to, because the older kids were always a quarterback,
Mm.
always a quarterback, or the big guy on the basketball team or whatever. And I think that really that helped me in some ways because in a small town, I read all the time now about how bad bullying is.
Mm.
God, there was bullying in South Hill, Virginia. The older guys, and you had two choices. You could start crying and go home to your mom and dad, or you could tough it out and and try to be a man about it. I mean, it wasn't so much physical bullying as it was mental bullying.
Verbal.
Yeah, verbal bullying, and you know, I'm not condoning bullying
Of course not. Yeah.
in any way, shape, or form if a person can't deal with it. But I thought back then it was a part of growing up.
It's a rite of passage
Right,
almost.
that's the way it seems to me. 60 years later, is you live through that, and then the next thing you know, you're the old guy. And I never bullied people.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can't see you
No,
bullying
I
people.
did not. I did not bully people physically or verbally.
Yeah, as you shouldn't. I grew up, older guys doing the same kind of thing to me. And I had a good friend who would maybe verbally bully, but I'm like, I don't need to be that guy.
Yeah, I had Facebook's good for some things, and I, as I was saying, the only sport that was organized in our little town was Little League baseball, and uh, a guy that was a year older than me died recently. I saw his obituary. I hadn't talked to him in 40 years, I'm sure. And he was a year older and he was very athletic. He was a left handed pitcher who terrorized the South Hill Little League. And I got a hit off of that guy. And I was on top of the world. And I got to know him a little bit better as years went on. And every time I saw him, hey, remember that hit I got off of you? That was one of my finer athletic moments, of which there haven't been that many.
Well, when you say terrorize, was he throwing wild pitches or he threw really hard?
He threw really hard, and from time to time he was wild. And he was left-handed, which was kind of unusual too.
Yeah, and the ball comes out of their hands differently, it
Yeah,
seems. It's certainly coming from a different side. But do you still follow baseball to this day?
I sure do. The older I get, the more I enjoy it. It's the greatest multitasking sport there is. I, uh, I subscribe. I'm a New York Yankee fan.
I'm sorry about
Uh,
that.
go, going all the way back to the days when Mickey Mantle played center field for the Yankees. He was, my favorite baseball card. Uh, every kid who enjoyed baseball, visualized being somebody. And anyway, I like the Yankees. The Richmond Virginians were the Yankees'
Hmm,
farm team
I had no idea.
until 1964.
Okay.
So all the Yankee prospects came through what then was known as Parker Field here. Our Little League would bring us to a game at Parker Field every year. But
So
yeah,
who did you see come through that team
uh,
that ended up being huge names out of New York?
very few because the Yankee dynasty was dying
Uh,
at that time in the early 60s. The young guys were not coming up the way they used to. There was a guy named Tom Tresh who you probably would never have heard of. Tony Kubek, the Yankees shortstop, got drafted into the Army. Can you imagine a baseball player getting drafted? he got drafted into the Army.
That's wild.
So the Yankees lost their starting shortstop, and this kid from who came through Richmond, Tom Tresh, went up and had a few good seasons for the Yankees, but he was no Tony Kubek. Mel Stottlemyre, I don't know if you've
Sure.
heard of
Oh
Mel.
yeah.
He came through
Okay.
Richmond, and he was well known. Al Downing, who threw Hank Aaron's record-breaking home run pitch, came through Richmond. He was a pitcher, and I'm sure I'm forgetting a few others, but none of the big superstars. The Yankee dynasty was dying.
So Mickey and
And,
Joe and
no,
Yogi and all those guys had already come through.
well, they were what was left of them was already in the majors by the time I came along. But so I've liked the Yankees, forever, and technology is great. Yeah, I would listen to ball games on radio whenever the atmospheric conditions would allow a 50,000 watt clear channel AM station to get the Yankee games out of New York down here. And most seasons, the games were on WCBS radio in New York City. Most of my recollection. But when they came up with the MLB packages on the internet,
You were all over.
what, 10, 15 years ago?
Yeah.
Now it started out as just radio, and then it became video, and so yeah, I subscribe every year. Last night I was sitting there uh, multitasking with the TV on, and oh, well, I do want to say Aaron Judge may be the best Yankee that I've ever seen play.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's a statement.
I've seen them all going back. The man's unreal.
Yeah, and he's a giant human being too.
Yeah,
To be that coordinated, that gifted for the sport of baseball, and to be 6'8" and however much he weighs, he's just
and to be a good guy.
yeah, he seems like a great guy. He's got a great
Yeah, he's a
reputation.
great role model. Kind of like Jeter.
Yeah.
Same way.
Yeah, well that because you listen you were listening to the Yankees back when Mantle and DiMaggio were playing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
you're saying Judge is the best Yankee in your lifetime?
Well, I wasn't. No, DiMaggio was not during my time. I'm
I don't
not.
remember his
I'm,
years.
I'm old, but I'm not that old. I think DiMaggio retired in the early '50s.
Okay, so he was gone by the
Because
time you started following.
Mantle was the successor in center field to Jolton Joe.
They played a couple seasons together.
Maybe one or two,
Yeah.
but that was the superstar transition. Uh, but yeah, I mean, I think Judge is the best I've ever seen with the Yankees.
All right, so you mentioned TV.
Yeah.
Did you have a TV in the house when you were a kid playing Little League baseball, or is it just
Yeah,
radio?
yes, we did have a TV.
But it wasn't picking up Yankees games then.
Well, the only baseball game on TV, yeah, we in South Hill we got three stations if we were lucky. You had to have an antenna on top of your house, and you had your choice. If you turned it north, you got the Richmond stations. If you turned it south, you got the Raleigh station.
Really?
Because South Hill is only 12 miles north of the North Carolina border. And if you had a really sophisticated antenna, you had a little box on top of the TV with a directional knob and a motor on the antenna that would turn it the way you
That's
wanted it to.
wild.
Right. But we listened to the or watched the Richmond stations, and but there was only one game a week on
It was
TV.
the game of the week, right?
Yeah, it's Saturday afternoon, and a lot of people of my age probably remember the play-by-play guy was Dizzy Dean,
Mm.
and the color commentator guy was Pee Wee Reese. And in retrospect, one of the big sponsors of the game was Falstaff Beer. I doubt if you've ever heard of
I've
Falstaff
heard of
Beer,
it.
but
Sure.
But we always thought and laughed as we got a little bit older that Diz may have had a six pack before he went on the air. He was a country ham bone type guy with all kinds of funny country sayings and using the wrong tenses of verbs and
And he knew he was using the wrong tenses.
right. And Pee Wee Reese was kind of the straight man. But yesterday was Jackie Robinson Day
Mm.
in the major leagues. You familiar with that?
Oh, sure. Everybody wears 42.
Everyone wears 42.
Yeah.
And back in those days, there weren't that many black players when I was growing up. Uh, and Jackie Robinson was before my time. I don't remember him playing. I think I saw last night that he retired in 1956 or
Mm.
57. Uh, but you know who the last major leaguer to wear number 42 was, right?
After Jackie.
No, no. Once they said we're retiring this number in Major League Baseball, they let the people who already had 42 grandfather out.
Okay.
You know who the last,
Uh-uh.
the greatest relief pitcher ever, Mariano
Oh,
Rivera.
yeah. Oh, that's right.
He was the last major leaguer to wear 42.
Wow.
And any Yankee fan out there now knows, looking back on it, uh, how amazing Mariano Rivera was.
With
Uh,
basically one pitch.
right. He, I mean, they were talking about it last night on the broadcast when whoever the Yankee closer is now, I think his name is Devin Williams. He came from the Brewers. And they said he'd been in 6 games so far this year and hadn't had a clean inning yet. And they said, yeah, Yankee fans, Mariano Rivera really spoiled you for 15 or 20 years of clean innings at the end of games.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I mean,
I said, yeah. I said, yeah.
he was a big reason y'all won a handful of times.
He only failed twice that I can remember. He gave up a home run against the Cleveland Indians in 1997 playoffs that knocked the Yankees out of not the World Series. That was still a part of the American League playoffs. And then, of course, that Marlins game
Yeah.
in 2001, I think it
Yeah, the
was.
little bloop.
Yeah, the little bloop hit.
Luis Gonzalez hit it.
Yeah. You got it. You got it.
Yeah, I know you've seen the video clip of his last game pitching
Yeah.
and Jeter and I cannot
Yeah.
remember the other guy's name.
Andy Pettit.
Pettit.
Yeah.
They came out. That's one of the coolest sports videos I've ever seen
And
of non-action
yeah.
like that. All right, so big baseball guy. I know you're a big football guy too. Uh, I had a friend. You remember Tom Greco?
I do not.
He was under LR at the bakery. Uh, he said he listened to you give your preseason expectations or review kind of thing about UofR football because you did that for years.
Yeah, I'm still doing it.
Are you still doing it?
Yeah, I am.
Is it too early to get a preseason review from you?
Much too early. He just finished spring practice, but uh, I mean, I can tell you that it'll be a historic season for Richmond because we have left the CAA, the conference we played football in, going well. The CAA took over A10 football back around the year 2000, I think, maybe shortly after that. The A10 had taken over the Yankee Conference. When Richmond went FCS football back in the uh, early 80s, which was, a sensible thing. Richmond couldn't play football on the same level as, Alabama and,
Sure.
the big schools and all that. Although all of us who were fans thought it was going to be the end of the world. It turned out not to be the end of the world. And we've had some pretty big success in FCS football, but uh, with we decided last year that we were leaving the CAA and going to the Patriot League
Mm,
for football. Now, the Patriot League's clearly a step down from the CAA in terms of the number of teams going to the playoffs every year and that sort of thing. We certainly went out on top. We won the CAA championship the last 2 years, and we've been to the FCS playoffs the last 3 years. But we have not advanced past the first round. We've been beaten in the quarterfinals all 3 years. Well, last year we actually lost in our first game. But anyway, so a lot of Richmond fans think dropping down the Patriot League is another step towards de-emphasizing the program, and that sort of thing is very controversial. And I can understand. I'm trying to be open-minded about it. With all the crazy stuff going on in college sports,
with the portal and NIL.
right?
Yeah.
I think the reason Richmond decided to move from the CAA to the Patriot League is the Patriot League is sticking much closer to the traditional amateur
Mm,
model.
okay.
For instance, they don't allow graduate transfers.
Okay.
So you can't take graduate transfers, and there are a few other things, but I don't think Richmond wanted to be associated with trying to pay football players, 50 or well, there are much fewer scholarships at the FCS level. I think the scholarship limit is 60 or something like that, and I get all mixed up in paying football players. We're going to pay basketball players. That's the flagship program at Richmond, and it
Yeah.
should be. And uh, I think going to the Patriot League was uh, driven by not wanting to get our hands dirty, so to speak, with all the crazy stuff going on
It's chaotic.
in
Yeah.
college football and basketball. The story about the Tennessee quarterback.
Yeah,
Did you
nuts.
read that one?
I know at a high level what happened there. It's crazy.
Right. I mean, I think I in the same thing goes on in college basketball, and I think it's affected the way I feel about college sports a little bit, the big time college
Right.
sports, like the NCAA tournament this year. You didn't see any Cinderellas make it past the round of 32,
All
right?
4-1 seeds.
Right. Whoever can pay the most
Yeah.
money is going to get the best players, and I guess if that's the way it continues to be,
Yeah, it
then
wasn't as compelling.
it'll put the more onus, I guess, on the coaches. If everybody's able to get a good solid group of players, then what the coaches can do with them may be a much bigger differentiator in some ways. But
I guess. I think they're going to have a cap. I think they're going to have contracts. I think they're
right,
going to have rules around those contracts. Otherwise, it was still an enjoyable tournament to
yeah.
watch, but it wasn't as compelling. I mean, who doesn't want to watch a 15 seed compete in the Sweet 16?
Yeah, I think the absence of Cinderellas and underdogs advancing further into the tournament took away something from it.
Yeah, I think in the round of Sweet 16, there was one double digit seed. It was Arkansas at 10, and
Yeah,
Arkansas probably should have been a higher seed anyway. So, yeah, you're right. You didn't have any Cinderellas really advance.
yeah, it was something.
All right, so Tom, I don't know if I've told you this before, but the handful of times I've been to U of R the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years,
Yeah,
I only see northern license plates. Uh,
yeah,
yeah, and obviously U of R was different when you went to it. In a lot of ways, it's the same. What attracted you to U of R?
Well, my father was a Richmond grad, and uh, several of his uncles were Richmond grads back in the dark ages.
When it was a Baptist
Well, yeah,
institution.
yeah, it was a Baptist institution up until uh, I think it was still technically a Baptist institution when I was there in the early 70s. But anyway, my father, as I mentioned, my father had polio, so he could not serve in the army in
Mm,
World War II. So he got to go to college while everyone else
mm.
was, battling in Europe or in the Far East. And but anyway, he went to Richmond. He graduated in 1944, and he would take me to football games when I was a kid, and basketball games over at the old arena on the boulevard,
Tell me more about that. Where was that arena?
right near where the Diamond is.
Huh.
It was I think the legend is that it was a old stable for the police horses or something like that, and they turned it into a basketball arena. I'm not sure about that. So
We won't fact check.
anyway, that was a big basketball venue back in the day. Richmond was a member of the Southern Conference
Mm.
at that time, which was a pretty big, not as big as the ACC, but the ACC was only the original 8 teams back then. And God, I wish it still was only 8 teams.
Those were magical times.
I cannot even tell you the names of all the teams that are in the ACC now. I don't think. But anyway, uh, the Southern Conference back then had West Virginia, Jerry West, Hot Rod Huntley, those guys.
Wow.
Virginia Tech was in the Southern Conference back then, and yeah, we used to go to games there. My father always went to the first round of the Southern Conference tournament, which was held at the arena.
Mm,
I guess for its central location. I don't know why else it would have been there. And Richmond always lost in the first round.
mm.
Our basketball team from about the mid 50s through the Dick Tarrant era, which started in the early 80s, really had only a handful of even winning seasons. When I was at Richmond, basketball was so bad that we wouldn't even leave the fraternity house to walk across the street to the Robbins Center to watch the games.
It's pretty bad.
Football was the king in Richmond, but anyway, I was bound for Richmond from probably the time I was born, and
Wow.
there were a lot of you talk about all the northern license plates and all that. Uh, Back in those days, I'd say the student body in Richmond was half towny,
Mm,
guys that lived at home in town, and the other half was from rural Virginia.
yeah.
Every good Baptist out there in rural Virginia at least thought about sending their kids to Richmond.
Yeah.
I always joked about that, but from Southside Virginia, where I grew up, there was a pipeline to Richmond. There were uh, dozens of kids from Brunswick, Mecklenburg, Lunenburg, Halifax, Greenville counties that went to Richmond back in those days. I bet if you were able to survey now, you probably might not find a single kid from going to the University of Richmond.
Yeah. I don't. When did that shift happen?
I think it started in the 80s,
Mm,
uh, uh, and continued as tuition cost went up and up and up. I think they were less and less. It became such a bargain for Northeasterners
right. Right.
because the tuition to private universities up in the Northeast was I don't know, uh, double what Richmond was, but heck, Richmond now.
Yeah,
I
there's not much of a
I
distinction now,
I
right?
think it cost a room and board and tuition cost about $80,000 a year. It's unreal.
I mean, that's in the top 30
Yeah,
most expensive places in the country, I think.
I'm sure it is, and yeah, it. My wife and I we walked through there Sunday. It's a great place to take a walk,
Well, it's a beautiful campus.
and it seems more like a country club than a. So they I think the students are getting treated well there.
Yeah, I I guess you're paying a lot of money. You expect certain
Yeah,
things in return.
yeah.
All
But
right, are you more of a football guy or basketball guy for U of R?
well, I'm both, but football's closest to my heart because when I was there, football was what it was.
Yeah.
You probably never heard of the great team of 1973,
Well,
did you?
I was only 4 years old.
Richmond opened up the season 6 or 7-0, and were voted into the national top 20
Oh wow.
back when it meant something.
Yeah,
We were up there with the teams that you still hear of today, the
that's amazing.
Alabamas, and we weren't just beating people, we were killing people.
Well, how many students went there back then?
Well, it was roughly the same number that go there now.
So not a big school.
Right. The undergraduate student body is probably no more than 3,000.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm sure we're one of the smallest schools and trying to play a Division 1A sports, basketball today and 1AA football. But that team was in my opinion, the best team Richmond ever had pre uh, pre FCS days. And we had a throw-in game. Uh, we had just made the top 20, and I don't know how this game got scheduled, but we had beaten Wake Forest, Boston College, West Virginia,
What?
Southern Miss, teams that you've heard of to go,
Sure.
not just beaten them, but trounced them.
Wow.
And we had started in on their Southern Conference schedule, and nothing had changed. We were just really dominating everything. The Southern Conference wasn't what it had been by that time. Tech was gone, West Virginia was gone. The Southern Conference teams were Davidson, Furman, William and Mary, Citadel.
So that
The
team killed it. All
Yeah,
those teams.
and we had a game scheduled somehow against somebody called Northeastern Louisiana, one of those bayou schools down in Louisiana. I forget what it's called today. It's not called the same thing. They finally gave them some non-directional names. But anyway, we went down there and they beat us on a Saturday night in the bayou, and
Wow.
that was the obviously the end of our top 20.
Was
And
that just a fluke, or was that team that
well,
good?
Richmond fans like to think it was a fluke. So, but that team had Barney Smith was our star running back. Pat Kelly, Jim Kelly's the famous Hall of Fame Buffalo Bills quarterback's older brother was one of our defensive studs, and we ended up not even going to a bowl game because
Wow.
back then the Southern Conference had a contractual agreement with the Tangerine Bowl that the champion would go to the Tangerine Bowl. Uh, and, because we had that famous win in 1968 in the Tangerine Bowl when we beat Ohio University. And we went to the Tangerine Bowl in '71 also, where we got beaten. But East Carolina beat us in the next to last or the game. And so we lost a game in the Southern Conference. East Carolina was undefeated, and We finished 8-2. We did whip William and Murray's. By the way,
Were they your big rival back then?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
they're a historic rival, just like Virginia and Virginia Tech are rivals.
Yeah.
Richmond and William and Murray. In fact, I was reading something about this today. William and Murray is still in the CAA for
Mm.
football. They haven't left the CAA, and our rivalry with them, it's the third most played rivalry in college football.
Wow.
It's been played that many times, and all Richmond fans, and I'm sure a lot of William and Murray fans were wondering how we were going to continue to play this rivalry with the teams in different conferences. And they announced yesterday or today, I read about it just before I came over here, that they've got the games scheduled through 2030. So
Good.
they're working on it. But it's always been the last game of the year, just like Tech in
Yeah.
Virginia. And I mean, Jimmy Laycock beat us like a friggin' drum for 20 years. He made Spider fans miserable when he was a coach at William and Murray. But he lost something there at the end. We began dominating, and after 130 some odd games, we lead the series 66-64.
Wow. That's wild.
It is wild. It's an unbelievable rivalry, but the real rivalry that we lost, the greatest rivalry, William and Murray's the historical rivalry. The JMU rivalry was the emotional rivalry. That was one of the best rivalries in FCS football during I'd say from the late '90s through the exit of Danny Rocco as Richmond's football coach in 2016.
Yeah, they were both really good in that stretch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they won national championships. We won our national championship in 2008. It was great FCS football.
Who was on that championship team? Who was the coach back then? It
Uh,
was London, right? Was it London?
yeah, it was Clawson's team, Dave Clawson's team, who of course went on to he left Richmond to go be the offensive coordinator at Tennessee,
Mm.
and he joined a sinking ship. He joined Fulmer was the coach at Tennessee, and he was in a death spiral. And
Yeah.
Clawson, it didn't work out. He went down with Fulmer, I guess. He went to Bowling Green, rebuilt that program, then to Wake Forest. And of course, he had a lot of success at Wake Forest. Who the heck would have ever thought Wake Forest would be playing in ACC championship games? And I think they played one of the New Year's Day games.
They did. Yeah.
But I believe, unless I'm mistaken, that Coach Clausen retired, or did he?
I'm not sure.
I, I was thinking because what's going on in college football really, he's not one of those types of guys.
It doesn't make any sense to him. He doesn't
Yeah,
have a lot of those guys don't
I
understand how to
I
navigate
I
it.
think he may have gone the Tony Bennett route
Yeah.
and stepped aside. But I hope that's not a mistake. Please edit it out if
Well,
you got to fact
li-
check. You
listeners to this are on their own to do their own research.
right. Oh, okay. But I but
No penalties for us putting
But
out
anyway,
incorrect info.
he left before the 2008 season, and Mike London, former Richmond player, former Richmond assistant coach, became head coach, and it was his team that won the national championship in 2008.
And were they a surprise national champion, or were they good all year
It
long?
couldn't have been well. We knew we were going to have a good team. We had made the playoffs the 2 years before, and we were knocked out in 2007, Clawson's last year, by App State, who at that time was in three-time defending national champs
Yeah.
in FCS. and we played them nose for nose down at what do they call the Rock? I think
Mm.
is what they call their football stadium. It's an amazing place. 2008, we went down there and beat them in the quarterfinals on the way to our championship. But that year, uh, we uh, we lost to JMU at City Stadium on a Scotty McGee punt return with about 30 seconds left in the game. We had the game won, and he ran back a punt for a touchdown that beat us. And it seemed like everything was dead. Then we after that loss, I don't think we never lost again.
Yeah.
We won out, and I think we had to win 9 straight games to win the national championship. In fact, at the end of the regular season, that William and Murray game was down in Williamsburg. If we had won that game, and I think we won it in overtime,
Wow.
we wouldn't even have made the playoffs.
That's wild.
Back then, the FCS only had a 16 game playoff, and we won that game. And then we I think we beat 3 top 10 teams on the way to the championship, and every one of them was on the road.
Wow.
Yeah,
Every playoff win was on the road.
yeah. Well, if you count the championship game was in Chattanooga, so it was at a neutral
Yeah.
site. But we had to beat Appalachian State on the road. Then we had to go out to Northern Iowa and play them, and that was in a dome,
Hmm.
in a very hostile environment, and that was what Richmond fans will always remember as the drive. We won that one on a touchdown pass, like a 70-yard drive in like the last 2 minutes of the game. Uh, we won it on a touchdown pass with maybe 20 seconds left in the
Sounds like
game.
the most exciting drive in the history of U of R
I
football.
still watch it every time I get depressed about Richmond football.
Uh, how do people listen to your U of R football show?
It's on YouTube, and you can find it on YouTube, or yeah, I've got a Facebook group called Richmond Spider Fans, the Spider Gang. The group that we hang with and do our tailgates with and all that. We started that about 15 years ago. It's just a bunch of really close friends. Some of them go all the way back to the fraternity house in Richmond, and we're all old. We need something to do. We like Richmond football, and we have a real good time. And the Facebook thing started out as kind of a joke, but it's been a lot of fun. It's a great hobby for me. It keeps me out of trouble and off the streets, and people can see the Facebook group out there, and the videos are there as well. I used to take a lot of video back when video was somewhat novel, and there weren't millions of entertainment choices on the internet.
Yeah, yeah.
You could take a video of a play in a game and put it out there on YouTube and get hundreds or thousands of hits.
It was gold.
All right,
Yeah.
it ain't like that anymore. Some Sometimes I scratch my head and I say, you know, well, why the heck am I doing this when there's only 75 or 100 people that are interested in this? But I still do it. I hope I've got a few more seasons left. As you probably know from your podcast, it's a lot of work.
But you enjoy it.
Oh yeah, it's the modern day equivalent of 1950s collected stamps.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's a hobby, and it's fun. I mean I can't write $100,000 checks to the Richmond Athletic Department. So maybe I'm doing some good, spreading some information and interest about Richmond football and Richmond basketball.
Do you have a name on that Facebook group?
Yeah, it's
No, no, no. What do you call yourself?
oh, I call myself
And
Satchmo.
where does that come from?
Oh God,
I wanted to ask you this years ago, actually.
my my well, uh, around the fraternity house, just about everybody had a nickname. And when I came through Richmond, there was a basketball, a lesser known basketball player for the Boston Celtics, who were dominated the NBA back in the early 70s, named Tom Sanders,
Hmm,
not Tom Saunders. He didn't have the U,
right.
and his nickname was Satch, and so they hung that on me around the fraternity house. That evolved a little bit over the years to Snatch and that sort of thing. And then, after graduation, uh, it hung on a little bit and it kind of disappeared for years and years and years. But it I needed a name when I started doing this because all of the characters in the Spider Gang have nicknames. So I went back to it, and my cycling hobby also helped with this. They instead of calling me Satchmo, they call me Slow Mo. So Slow Mo kind of caught on, and then it became Mo. They shortened it to Mo, and but anyway, that's
Okay.
how it came about, and I try to use it often enough for people to remember what it is.
Does your wife have a name she goes by?
Uh, my wife's name is she doesn't have a nick. Well, yeah,
She
she
does have a
does have a
nickname.
nickname, the sheriff, because she helps keep me out of trouble.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah,
Like any good sheriff
right.
would. Yeah.
That's her nickname in the Spider Gang.
So I have a much better appreciation for your deep love and loyalty for the University of Richmond. I wish I had talked to you about this 20 years ago.
Yeah. Well, it's real. I just like sports. I've always liked sports, and uh, I really like Richmond. I owe it. I our family owes an awful lot to the University of Richmond sports aside. My father was able to go to college there. From there, he went to MCV, became a physician, went back to South Hill, practiced with his uncle, and you know that set up our whole his success set up played a large role in whatever success I've had over the years. It wouldn't have happened without his being successful at the University of Richmond and MCV,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. And my wife's a Richmond grad as well.
That's where y'all met.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and well, we've got some real close ties. But sadly, neither one of my children were interested in going to college in the same town with mom and dad.
That makes sense to
Which,
me.
yeah, I understood. I understood. I've got some grandchildren. Who knows? Maybe one of them will want to keep the or reestablish the connection.
Yeah, that would be cool
Yeah.
if at least one of them does. All right. You spent a lot of time at Bank of Virginia, Signet Bank, and Capital One. Your time at Capital One, I guess, was about 17 years. Am I doing the math right? No,
Well,
13.
12.
Okay, 12 years at
Yeah.
Capital One. Out of all your entire career, there's some people that you just remember because they were either wildly brilliant or they were funny or fun. Do you have any folks that you want to share your experiences with? Not all of them, but just a story or two, maybe.
Uh, well, uh,
It's a lot of people.
yeah, it is. It is a lot of people. What I'd like to say is that uh, out of all the people I worked with at Capital One, uh, I'd say I got along and enjoyed and learned from probably 90 to 95% of them, which is a blessing. Anybody that's worked uh, in a corporation knows that the job is a heck of a lot more fun and satisfying and rewarding if you enjoy the people that you're working around. And I feel, blessed that that was the case for the almost my entire experience at Capital One and before that at Bank of Virginia and Signet Bank. Um, I don't know. There were some real characters there, and I just remember not so much who the people were, uh, and I'm not gonna mention any names.
Yeah, because you'll feel like you have to mention them a lot
Right.
more. Yeah.
I could never mention all of them, but there were some real characters. The guy that we call Crash was I don't know if you know who Crash was or not. Uh, Came to us from uh, uh, was it Best Products?
It
What
was
was the
Circuit City and
Circuit City?
North
Yeah,
Finamby or whatever it was
and
called.
was the greatest uh, salesman on the East Coast or something crazy like that. And wow, there were so many different ideas about how to motivate people and do things and I I can't get playing Santa Claus at Christmas out of my head. Uh, Putting on a s- a Santa Claus outfit and playing Christmas and having to go out to the smoking area. And I always hated it when I saw Santa Claus smoking. It was terrible. And there I was playing Santa Claus and going out, uh, and then the singing group of trying to sing the Beach Boys' California Girls a cappella with a guy named LR and Snacks and stuff like that. And then of course there was
I don't know whether
uh,
you can say or not, but I'm positive LR can't say.
well, I know I can't either, but we gave it a good shot. And then there was that Navy helicopter pilot who always pushed the envelope to the absolute edge.
It's how he lives his life.
Right. And there, I I forget what it was, but we used to always say that there won't be a team building event for that group that doesn't have some risk of death or serious injury.
We definitely can't tell some of those stories.
Right. Right. And that, but I could the I can't tell some of those
No,
stories.
no, no, no.
Right.
I've heard versions of some of those stories.
Right.
Yeah, and we definitely don't need to go there.
But I would say this: it wasn't so much the managers. My observation was the craziest times were always created by the associates.
Oh yeah.
And then the managers obviously had to get involved with some of the things. I'll never forget one Friday afternoon. It'd been a hard week. Everybody was tired. Things were winding down on a quiet Friday afternoon, and somebody comes running into my office. Hey, so and so got a new tattoo, and she's showing it to everybody in the call center.
Oh god.
And that things like that happened more often than I like to remember, remember, and you know, just
Well, to your point around 90-95% you got along with,
yeah,
most people at Capital One I thought were very, very bright people, and they were also very polite. They were nice. Now, it didn't mean that they weren't maybe doing some not so nice things out of your presence, but everybody was very cordial. It just we weren't
yeah,
confrontational. We weren't yelling at each other.
yeah,
We were just trying to get things done.
yeah. It was it. I think most of that was absolutely legitimate. I think
Yeah,
we got along well. Uh, some of it though was the culture, and in that I think back before politically correct was a popular description for certain things in our culture, that our environment was that way.
yeah.
If I remember one time one of my managers wore a T-shirt in that was deemed to be offensive by someone,
Oh,
and
it only takes one of these.
I wasn't cool enough to even know what the T-shirt was by then. I didn't get out much. Everything I learned about our culture was in the workplace,
Right, 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 right.
and and anyway, next thing I know, I'm getting a call from human resources. To da 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 da. So and so's got a T-shirt on that's offending people over in your area. What in the heck's going on? Do
Yeah, like
something
I don't.
about it. And it was a big deal.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was a big deal. Even back in the late 90s, and I'm still not certain what the T-shirt meant, but.
I'm not sure why people are so easily offended the last, I don't
Oh,
know,
oh
30
yeah,
years or
yeah.
so.
Like I said about the bullying. You got to develop some thick skin to get by in life, because everything's not going to be sensitive to whatever your need is. I'm not encouraging people to be offensive or say offensive things, but we're all different, and we all have a standard uh, for ourselves, and some people's is lower than others.
Yeah, some people don't want to be resilient. They don't want to be accountable. And so they
Yeah,
have lots of different
yeah,
ways of avoiding tough things.
yeah,
Uh, I know you're a big cycler. You were cycling earlier today. You were
yeah.
telling me. Uh, how old were you when you started cycling?
Well, I didn't have a car at the well, of course, when I was a kid in a small town, we all had bicycles, and
Right.
we could ride all over town, and we rode them everywhere. Uh, but as soon as we could get a driver's license, screw the bicycle.
Sure.
We're
Sure.
not, that's not cool anymore. We want to drive a car. Uh, but I did not have a car at the University of Richmond until my senior year,
Mm,
and I finally, got a chance to live off campus my junior year. So I had to ride a bicycle back and forth. Lived off of Monument Avenue near St. Mary's.
okay.
So I rode a little bit then, and I once again I couldn't get a car soon enough. Finally got a car and ditched the bicycle. And this is another thing I can blame the bakery for. I was probably 20 years older than most of the people that I worked with, and were on my teams during that time. And some of them cycled, and
Mm,
they uh, got me interested. I'd gone to on a vacation with my family to a place called Bald Head Island, North Carolina, down off of Southport. It's where the Cape Fear River comes into the or dumps into the Atlantic. And this island, you have to take a ferry over there. There are no cars and vehicles allowed on the island. So the only way to get around once you got over there was a golf cart that came along with your accommodation, or bicycle. So it was a great place to take kids because they couldn't get them in so much trouble. And although mine found a way to get into trouble, there were alligators there, and those golf carts, they weren't supposed to be driving those. But I started riding there. This is fun. I hadn't been on a bicycle in probably 20 some odd years. And then, at Capital One, there were these young guys who rode bicycles from time to time, and that kept me going. And it's a great hobby that you can do by yourself if you have to. It's much more fun when you've got somebody to ride with, but you don't have to. You have a big initial investment to buy a bicycle. Hell, you can spend thousands of dollars on a bicycle if you want to. I've never paid more than $750 for one, but you can do it every day if you want to. You can go as far as you want to, and I just hooked on to the sport. I enjoyed it. I felt like I was doing something that was good for me mentally and physically.
And you're outside.
Yeah, exactly. Back in those tough days at Capital One, the bakery.
The bakery, yeah. I'm not
Back
sure what Capital One is. Yeah.
yeah, back in those tough days, I'd go for a ride in the dark with a headlight on the
You were
bike
really into it.
to get my head straight and ready, get that stuff going in my blood to get me ready for the day.
Wow.
But yeah, and it's just grown and grown and grown over the years, and uh, I try to ride almost every day of the year whenever I can, and it all adds up. I live in a neighborhood where I can ride 20 miles
Mm.
or more uh, on safe, quiet streets without a lot of traffic, and it's about as safe as you can get out there.
Well, I'll transition to you not riding your bike recently
Yeah,
because you had an accident on the bike.
yeah. I've had a couple. Uh, I'd say I've ridden over 100,000 miles since the late '90s, and I've had two accidents in that time. Uh, One in 1999 where I really screwed up my left. That was while we were at the bakery,
Yeah.
and I had to have surgery. I'm carrying two screws in my left uh, tibia
Mm.
where they had to put it back together. But most recently, a couple of years ago, I shattered my hip down at the south end of the Potterfield Bridge. There's a real difficult exit from the uh, into a street at the end of the ramp coming across the railroad yard, where you have to do three 90-degree turns
Mm.
in a very small area, and I'd done it dozens and dozens of times with no accident. I just wasn't paying enough attention. I dumped myself on the concrete and shattered my hip. So uh, I had to have a full hip replacement. And it's still it'll be 2 years in June, and it's still getting better.
Yeah.
I figured, the chances were I'd have to get a hip replacement somewhere along the line
You
anyway.
just sped it up.
But right, I'd never had any hip discomfort at all prior to that accident. But so you can mess up out there. You've got to be alert, and you've got to be careful. But you can't eliminate the risk because you have no control over the drivers.
Yeah.
You can do all you can to try and minimize the risk, but you can never totally eliminate
Which accident was more painful? Because they both sound excruciating.
it. well, the hip uh, 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 was I wasn't working. I was retired. The other one, uh, I still had my job, and my my number one thing was, hey, I need to get back to work, or I'm going to get so far behind at the bakery that I'll never recover. Uh, but that one went on for, it took 3 months for the swelling. I hit the grand slam. I broke my tibia, ankle, and foot.
Mm,
And the swelling in the foot and ankle, I was wearing a boot for 3 or 4 months,
mm.
and I had crutches for a good part of that time while it all healed up. The hip, all I had to do was sit around,
Yeah.
and after, I mean, they only kept me 2 nights. Once the day of the accident, that night, and then one more night, and then they set me loose. And
Wow.
I think within a week I was walking with a walker inside the house regularly, and then from that point you just progressed on. But the discomfort, was probably pretty much over with after a couple of months.
But that's somewhat surprising because I know people that have had their hips replaced and they complain many months.
Well, I still have some discomfort today if I sit in a chair like this one too long.
Yeah. We've been in these chairs for a while.
And when I get up, or I'll wake up sometimes at night if I'm sleeping on it or something like that,
Yeah.
and still have a little bit of discomfort. But it's still getting stronger, I believe, almost 2 years later.
Good.
It's still getting stronger.
That's great. I'm glad you're still getting out there because I think it makes you happy. I think it brings all
Well,
kinds of
there's no doubt it sets off something inside your body that I believe helps you mentally and as well as physically. I weigh 25 or 30 pounds less than I did when I retired from Capital One.
wow. Less stress in your life, I imagine.
Well,
This Capital One, you mean the bakery?
oh yeah. Oh, you can tell I'm starting to I'm not maintaining my discipline, but at the bakery, who the heck couldn't eat 4 or 5 candy bars a day,
Sure.
a handful of M&Ms every day. Uh,
Because it was everywhere.
right, but there was food, and most of the meetings had something in there to eat, right?
Yeah, of course. That's what you did.
That was one of the benefits of working there was your sweet tooth never suffered.
Yeah, sugar's not great for you, especially as you age.
Right. I, but that I'm proud to say that I just had my annual Medicare wellness exam. You're too young to know
I know
this,
what
so
that
you're not on
means. Yeah.
Medicare yet.
Yeah.
But people complain about the federal government. Medicare is a great program. Uh, I uh, I think it's a great program, and I'm sure there's a lot of fraud in it, and I'm sure that there's a lot of waste, and I'm sure it can be made more efficient. But it's a great program for Americans, and one of the benefits is everyone who's on Medicare gets an annual wellness exam with their physician.
Yeah.
I just had mine passed, once again, which is always a good standing joke with all my older friends. But when you get to my age, you just become much more grateful of that you're still able to do things like ride a bicycle. There's so many people. I'm going to a funeral celebration tomorrow for a friend I went to college with,
Mhm.
who's a year older than me.
Yeah.
And there've been others, the people that I grew up with, the people, a few people that I worked with back in the day. are all, who haven't been nearly as healthy. I feel like I'm that the cycling and hobbies and things like that, trying to stay mentally and physically active is doing something good for me.
Yeah, I was talking to a doctor the other day, and he said the healthcare system is only 20% of your physical health. The other 80% is you. And so
Yeah.
if you choose to eat well, nutritionally intelligent, you exercise, you figure out how to get good sleep. If you do those things, that's the other 80%. And so it sounds like you're living that life and you're taking care of that 80%.
Well, one of my philosophies about cycling is that I can eat anything I want as long as I'm cycling
No,
cycling
it
20,
works.
20 plus miles a day because according to the GPS application I use, it estimates how many calories you're burning. Yeah, I'm burning over 1,000 every day. I figure that's good for a bowl of ice cream,
Yeah.
a brownie, uh, honey nut Cheerios that are sweet and full of sugar, cookies at lunchtime. I've got a big sweet tooth. And
Well, you couldn't tell by looking at
and
you.
donuts. God, I love donuts. That's an old bakery thing too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Who the heck ever started an 8 o'clock meeting
Without
without
donuts.
pastries and
I
donuts?
think it was a rule. Yeah.
Because that Krispy Kreme was
It was right there.
a mile away.
It was right there.
They
Yeah.
might even still have been warm.
They probably were. My recollection is they were warm.
Yeah.
All right, Tom, let's close with tell me about your wife, your kids, and your grandkids.
Well, like I said, I met the sheriff at uh, the University of Richmond, and we're about to celebrate our 50th wedding
That's coming
anniversary.
up this year.
Yeah, and it's been a great. By the way, the sheriff's birthday was recently, and
Happy birthday to the sheriff.
and she she and I are the same age, so there's no.
Who's technically older?
I am by about 6 weeks.
Okay.
So, but it's been a great ride. We still live in the same house that we've lived in for 40 years. I've got two kids. My daughter is married and with two children. My oldest grandchild's in the sixth grade. And
He knows what a podcast is, or she does.
yeah.
Yeah.
And my youngest grandson, they live in Chapel Hill. I've got a son-in-law down there that is a real outdoorsman and can grow just about anything.
Mm.
And he loves to surprise me by planting things in my yard. Or we've got a small cottage at Nags Head, North Carolina, planting things and not telling me about it. Then the stuff starts coming up in the yard, and I've kind of gotten into flowers. I started planting stuff lately myself,
Okay.
and now I can't walk past the windows without looking at the stuff I planted. And I guess it's old age, but
No, it's something about seeing something that you were a part
but
of.
you've
Yeah.
got to have skin in the game,
Right. That's
and
right.
everything was kind of bland around our house, and I just started planting bulbs. So I've had 2 seasons worth of planting bulbs now, and I just had the most beautiful tulips come up that I've planted. I've planted, but anyway, my son lives in Richmond. He and his wife live uh, on the north side, and my grandson, the child who's going to carry on the Satchmo name, uh, he goes to St.
Christopher's.
Christopher's,
Yeah.
and my cycling buddy I was riding with today, had a grandchild go to St. Christopher's. I must say, I know you've got some St. Christopher's. I'm very, very impressed with what St. Christopher's does for those guys, those kids. It
Those kids are very fortunate.
it is. What part did you play? What?
In making the place better, no part.
I'm sure you did. That's right. You weren't there for lower school
I was there for the last year of middle school and high school.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the lower school kids have an annual production, a play, and that kind of stuff. And that's what I was thinking about was what role
Oh,
did you
yeah,
play? And
yeah. I missed
but
all that.
anyway, there it's great to have them in Richmond and uh, enjoy enjoy them. My son and my daughter went to Swanee, the University of the South, and way down in
It's 11 hours
it,
away from Richmond.
it's a good day long drive that I made. They both went there, and I really enjoyed it those years. It was tough going down there. I wish I could have gone down there more, but uh, I've been back a couple of times just for the heck of it to spend time. It's a really unique campus. It's on the edge of the Cumberland Plateau, up on top, and it's really something. And
Well, they say it's a 10,000 acre campus
it
and
is.
about 1,000 students, so 10 acres
Yeah,
per kid.
it's about the size of Hampton, Sydney, or I guess Randolph Macon's a little bit larger than that, maybe. But it's
In terms of student body.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it was founded by the Episcopal Church,
Mm.
and they got the money from the Church of England, and with the goal was to make it the Oxford of the South. And anyway, that didn't quite work out because of the Civil War and all that.
Right, right, right.
But uh, both of them were educated down there, and I'm very proud of both of them. Turned into very productive members of society, and I'm proud of them.
That's what you want, right?
Yeah,
All right. So your daughter has two grandkids or two kids?
two kids. My son's got one.
Okay. And it's boy, then
I got two boys. The oldest and youngest are boys. No, the oldest I got the uh, my granddaughter. I got one granddaughter. She's the oldest. She's in the sixth grade. My St. Christopher's grandson's in the fifth grade,
okay.
and my youngest grandson in Chapel Hill's in the third grade.
Who's the most likely to go to U of R out of that group?
I don't know. Those ones in Chapel Hill, they're Carolina fans.
Yeah. Oh,
Uh,
oh,
their daddy grew up in Chapel Hill.
oh gosh. So there's
That's
almost no chance.
right, right. So I don't know. We'll just have to see.
So maybe your grandson that lives here.
It
Well, and
could,
he's going to school K through 12. I mean, a hop, skip, and a jump away from
right.
where you went to college.
Yeah, I have no idea what their plans will be or what they'll want to do.
Now they'll hopefully they end up being good contributing citizens.
Yeah,
Uh,
I hope so.
yeah, that's awesome. Well, Tom, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate you coming out to Ashland to do this. You are, I think, technically in the center of the universe here because I have an Ashland address, even though I'm not inside the town limits.
Right.
But you've spent the last couple hours in the center of the universe. I appreciate you
Well, I
doing it.
appreciate it. It's been fun coming into the center of the universe. I can't wait to tell my grandchildren, my wife, what happened, and I look forward to uh, hearing the podcast.
You are episode 321, and it's coming out Monday.
Yeah, all right. And when it comes out Monday, where do I find it? Just Google
Do you
Center of the Universe.
you could do it that way? Do you have an iPhone?
Yeah,
Okay, so on your iPhone, Apple Podcast comes with the iPhone.
yeah,
Just go to Apple Podcast and search for stories from the center of the universe. If you get to once you get to the C and center,
yeah.
it'll pop up.
And you're gonna. How long have we been speaking here?
An hour and 29 minutes so far.
Oh God. How long are these podcasts?
As long as we keep talking until I hit stop.
Oh. Well, I hope you won't have to edit too much.
I'm not going to edit anything. I don't think there's anything we need to edit.
Okay. All right, whatever you say.
All right. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to wherever you listen to podcasts. We'd also really appreciate if you'd rate and review us. You can find us at scodupodcast.com.